Screenless.
The TV drama is imagined. The work and the guests are real. Making a soundtrack. Hello and welcome to Making a Soundtrack podcast.
Hello.
Opening scene and action!
Hi Dan, you alright?
Hello. Yes, I am. I'm very good, actually. How are you?
I'm very well. We have an opportunity to meet soon, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
Which is going to be nice.
It would be nice to check in, go and have a bit of lunch. And then we thought, well, if we're going out for lunch, it probably means we'll have a few drinks afterwards.
Oh, wow.
So why not invite everyone else?
That's a fairly safe bet.
I say everyone else, anyone who might be vaguely interested.
Yes, all two of the listeners.
Well, you know what? If two people turn up, that would make my day.
It would be fantastic, yes. So that's going to be 12th of October, Saturday the 12th of October, 2 p.m. onwards. It's literally just going to be us sat in a pub, so don't expect anything.
Yeah.
Just bring your wallet.
It's not a launch party.
No.
It's not a live podcast.
It's just a drink down the pub. And if you fancy coming along, you'd be very welcome. You can find out all the details at makingsoundtrack.com.
And also we've made it, and I know it's not an event, it's just going down the pub. But if you would like to share with us that you are intending on coming or you're interested in coming, then you can go onto Facebook, onto our page there, and you'll see the event.
You said it wasn't an event, and it is an event. Now I'm confused.
It's not an event.
Excellent.
Great. Well, that would be fantastic. Come along, join in. It's going to be basically in St Pancras Station, isn't it, in London?
Pretty much, very close, yeah.
Pretty much on the platform. There's a pub there called the Betjeman Arms, so we're going to be there. Okay. Last week we had Andrea Gibb, the marvellous screenwriter. She gave us some wonderful words of wisdom and a real insight into her work.
Yeah, fascinating.
And her side of the industry. She came up with two things that really stayed with me, which I think we can think about when we're composing.
Yeah.
One is that conflict is the essence of drama. She said that very early on, and I think that's really at the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it works in music too. You got to think about how there's always some sort of dissonance and then release in music, and it's the same thing. So Absolutely. You've got the conflict and then returning to home again and everything being okay.
The other thing was about Act 2. We were kind of on the right tracks with Something Happens.
Yeah. Which is, I believe, the actual technical term if you talk to any scriptwriter. Something happens. Or not.
What Andrea was calling it was the liminal zone, which sounds like a really spooky TV series awesome. In itself.
I absolutely love it. And if it isn't, it should be.
But essentially means that something changes.
Yeah.
You can write about your characters, then something changes, and then afterwards you are writing about how that character has changed as a result of that.
Being in the liminal zone.
The liminal zone. I'll get you next time, Gadget. Oh, sad.
Oh, dear.
So great. Shall we get on with it?
Sorry.
It's time for Dan to sing.
Cue the music.
Cue the music.
So we've started with track 1 of our album.
We have actually composed something.
Which is a huge relief, because up until this point we've just been planning and had no idea whether actually we could collaborate or not.
No.
So it's been fun.
Yeah, because we haven't worked together before, so it's always kind of interesting.
So to explain a little bit about why we've started where we've started, we did a little plan, which we explained in the last episode. So if you haven't heard that, maybe go back and listen. And in that episode, we basically decided on a track listing, taking into account a story arc of sorts. In the last episode, we'll have also heard from Andrea Gibb, who is a scriptwriter. So that will have given us some pointers about what a story arc is and where to make things more exciting and when to have some breathing space and things like that. So we started with track 1 as an introduction. So that bit before the credits or before the titles come up, setting the scene, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we decided very early on to try and create our own sounds and then use those as a starting point. And that was really useful. It was a very sort of quick way into making something and getting some inspiration so that we weren't staring at a blank page.
Yes, and actually one of those drones that I came up with for, I think, our local lock, Shepperton Lock, which is a fine lock, lots of water, that drone created this kind of harmonic which immediately gave you an idea for a melody, didn't it?
It did, yeah, it did. I think when we played it, I picked up a guitar and thought, oh, it's in B, it's B. There's like an A and a B in there, and you were like, oh, I don't think it's an A and a B.
Not far off though, not far off.
And yeah, I realised my guitar was out of tune, and it was actually B flat. It was B flat and A flat. No, not far off. And yeah, so that gave me an idea, and I mulled over it for a while, which is what I'd kind of like to do with the sound going, and went and made a cup of tea and then sat at the piano whilst the kettle was boiling and noodled a bit, and instantly came, because I just started messing about, but instantly came up with something that I thought, oh yeah, that's good, I can hear something here, and then noodled a bit more until eventually came up with the melody.
Shall we have a little listen to that melody?
Version 1, let's have a listen.
Well, that certainly sets a scene, doesn't it?
Yes. I think I very quickly sort of mocked that up and sent it over to you. And
after all the tantrums and slamming doors and everything, I calmed down, didn't I?
You did. You calmed down.
No, I thought it was great, and I really think it set a scene as well. It was perfect for what we were going for. One of my comments, I think, was about creating space, wasn't it? And the way you work is to put everything in and then take bits out. So actually, we were kind of on the same page with that.
Subtractive synthesis. I tend to throw everything at it.
All right, big words.
And then throw everything at it and then start pulling stuff away until you boil it down. It's a jus, not a gravy.
A jus, not gravy. Quickly becoming, I think we need to change all of our social media.
It's a jus, not a gravy.
Making a soundtrack, it's a jus, not a gravy.
I should get t-shirts with it made.
So the following version / were about taking things out. You also, in the following versions, extended that initial idea by moving it into this amazing ostinato piano that really set the scene.
I wanted some movement, and I wanted something to help propel it forward, so it just wasn't sort of drony with a melody over the top. The ostinato is made just out of the same notes from the melody. That's all it is. There are no extra notes or anything in there, and it was just a two-handed thing I did on the piano. Yeah,
and I can see that ostinato phrasing coming back. Could be on a different instrument or the same instrument or something built up. I'm not sure yet.
That melody and that ostinato will probably feature as something else, because they will be, I think they'll probably get attached to one of our moments or characters or something that we're planning on trying to tell just through the music.
Yeah, or location.
Possible location, yeah.
Who knows? Who the murderer is.
We don't know at this stage because this is the only bit of music we've written.
Could be a red herring. We could be pointing out who the murderer is right in the introduction. And let's just explain a little bit what our roles are in terms of composing. In the whole podcast kind of process, we decided that I will edit the podcast and you will mix the music.
Yeah.
So it's kind of 50-50. In the composing process, we've decided that we'll take 50% of leading the composing duties each.
Yeah.
So if it's 10 tracks, then you'll be leading 5, I'll be leading 5. And when I say leading, it means that we need to actually allow ideas to happen. And that means, I think, someone taking the lead for a certain track. So for this track, you've gone away, you've gone, right, I'm going to put all this together. We've talked about what the kind of feel that we're going for. I've got a melody in mind, so I'll go for it. And that's what's happened with this track. And then I've kind of sat back in almost like a producer role. I did alter some of the notes via MIDI, didn't I? You sent me a MIDI file of the piano, and
we work in different computer programs, so and this is all new to us, so we're still really finding our feet with how we do this. But there was a lot of the manipulated stuff from the sounds that we did was all audio, and we decided to keep it all as audio for the time being so that we can send it backwards and forwards to each other. I put a couple of extra bits on some of those, which we've then rebounced again with the extra processing so that can then be used further. But when it came to the MIDI type of stuff, so it's a fake piano. So all I did was bounce the MIDI and send it over, because you instantly said, actually, do you know what? You've got this chord progression, and I'd actually like the ostinato to change a bit, and I think I know what I want to do with it. So I just sent you the MIDI, and then you tinkered with it and sent it back. Yeah.
So in very broad terms, that's how we're working. So there's just one person will take the lead, but it doesn't mean that the other person can't have ideas and input and even play some stuff. But in broad terms, we're doing it that way. Yeah. Just another little side note. What is MIDI? We keep mentioning this word.
Yeah. It's what does it stand for? Musical Instrument Digital Interface. I think that's right. Musical Instrument Digital Interface, MIDI.
Social media, is that correct?
It is. I'm pretty sure.
You can win respect from your peers. Yeah. And it basically means that it's the digital information without all the sounds.
It's not the audio,
attached.
no. It is literally note on, note off, and other controller stuff. There is more to it than that, but the crux of it is you hit a key, it records when the note's on and when the note's off. Yeah.
So you exported a MIDI file of the piano ostinato, and then I imported that. There was no instrument attached to it, but I could manipulate the notes so that when I sent it back to you,
I could import it again.
And you import it, it will sound like the original piano, but with the new notes.
Yeah, that's it.
When I listen to myself there, it sounds really complicated. But
it's not.
It's not.
But I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, we take it for granted, but it is. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of what we do, because MIDI is it's like I say, it's note on and note off information, but it's that information that then gets used by other programs to create strings or brass or whatever, so that you can do these amazing mock-ups of things without having to hire them.
Okay, so shall we play the snippet of the final version?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, I think you'll agree that sounds absolutely fabulous. It certainly sets a scene. When I say final version, probably should say current version, because, we could go on and then decide, actually, what we're doing in track 5 relates back to the introduction, and maybe we should change something there. So it's all a sculpting process, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the next track, and if you look at our scribbles on social media, you'll see it's the theme tune, which I don't think we should approach just yet.
No, I think we should find our feet with some characters maybe first.
Yeah.
Maybe a place or something, and then come back to the opening theme.
So track 3 is location. So maybe I should have a little crack at that. Listening to the introduction track with the elements of drones and textures that we'd made, really made me think about texture as a tool. And we developed the drones and textures for the first track. It really gave it a certain atmosphere, like heavy air, I thought. A bit like the pressure you'd feel before a storm. And I think it really sets the scene for something, not entirely sure what. And so I thought the next track, the location, should be a real contrast to that.
Morning.
Morning.
All right.
Today we're going behind the scenes of our working processes, or workflow for short.
We are. We're going to talk about what we're trying to achieve, what challenges we've come up against, how we've fixed a few issues, if we've come across any issues indeed, those kind of things.
So maybe we should start with what we are actually trying to achieve, and then discuss the choices that we've made in order to achieve that thing.
Very good. Now, this probably should come with a nerd alert. Nerd, nerd, nerd. It could be very difficult to keep it entertaining because there's going to be a lot of information about essentially quite boring things.
Boring, but hopefully useful to someone.
Oh, certainly.
So, what are we trying to achieve? Well, we've talked about this before, haven't we? We are making an album together.
We are indeed. As well as the podcast at the same time.
Yes, but what we want to physically have at the end of it is a finished soundtrack album.
That's right.
Along the way, if we have been informative and had a little window into the industry by having these guests on, then that's a big Brucey bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What we're trying to achieve is, like you say, the podcast and also the album. So actually there are two different things going on there. It's almost like there are two projects in one.
It does, to a degree, feel like two projects in one, but at the same time, it is, to me at least, feeling very much like a whole, rather than... You could definitely split the two things up if you wanted to, but I think it feels quite like a whole to me.
Yes, because part of the reason we did it as a podcast was because we were doing an album out of context, where, we didn't have the picture. So we're using the guests and, all that research to actually inform how we go about the music. So they are intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how do we go about the music?
This is a good question. Well, we've kind of fallen into a bit of a groove, haven't we?
We have, definitely.
We weren't quite sure how things would work. We knew that we wanted to share the project management of the album, which meant that you would compose a track or start a track that I would then join in on, and vice versa until we finished.
Yeah.
Have we achieved that so far? I think we probably have, haven't we?
Yeah, very much so. I think we've sort of handed out the titles to each other, and each of us has started a title and then got so far with it. I think it was me that suggested we shouldn't take things too far. We should do X amount on it. It's very easy when you're doing these things to get carried away and just keep going and going and going until eventually you've got the finished thing. But when you're working with someone, obviously, if you keep doing that and handing over finished tracks, then, it's not the same thing. And we wanted it to be a collaboration. So
what I've certainly found when I'm writing is I know that there are certain elements that you will come up with, on reflection when you listen to it. So I know that I'm not going towards a finished thing that I'm going to play you. I'm going towards something that hopefully you will, pass the baton and carry on the kind of relay race.
Exactly. Same for me. I think you're just trying to get the idea down and hope that you convey the idea well enough that the other person goes, oh, great, right, yeah, I know what to do with this.
And I think we've achieved that so far. I think we're satisfied with how we've gone about things, certainly.
Yeah. So how do we share what we've done? Let's talk about that.
We have started right from the start. We've used Google Drive in order to share files. So we have a shared folder. In that folder, I think maybe it would be useful to have a screen grab of the folder. So if you have a look on our social channels, you'll see a photo of our shared folder for our music. And in that folder, we have things like idents, instruments. So all the things that we have been doing so far, the drones, the percussion, the raw sounds, the textures, any sound design are kept in there. And then we've got the work in progress tracks thus far. So it's all very clear about what goes where. And I think we need to be, don't we? Because otherwise it can get very confusing very quickly.
Especially if you've got a lot of tracks that you're sharing.
Yeah.
It's very easy for tracks to get missed and other such things.
We aren't worrying about names or anything like that, but just that agreed plan that we had that was scrawled on a piece of paper. So the 1 intro, 2 theme, 3 location, 4 character 1 theme, 5 character 2 theme. That's the kind of naming conventions that we've got, I suppose, so far.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, and then we know which tracks we're working on.
And we've also got an ideas folder, so if we come up with anything, we can just share it.
Yep.
And it just means it might inspire more ideas, but it's a good place to share those ideas.
Yeah, so how the process tends to go is that whichever one of us is writing, whichever one of us is taking the lead on the writing, we'll start a session in their studios, and come up with the idea, get the bare bones of it down, and then upload a version to that folder so that the other one can then take a listen.
Wherever you are. I listened to one of your mixes in the park.
All of the mixes are best heard in the park, I think.
Out of context, out of the studio. Somewhere else.
It's always good to get out and about.
Yeah.
Then the other person, once upon listening, will then decide. Sometimes, I mean, I think I found it quite easy when you've sent me tracks to go, oh, I could just add that, or oh, just put a bit of that on it. I think we've both managed to come up with clear enough ideas and convey them well enough that the other person's then just been able to embellish or slightly modify or do something like that, just to make it different, rather than sort of a lot of chin scratching and, oh, what does this need? There's been none of that yet. I'm not saying that there might be.
I'm sure we have it to come. I'm sure of it. But so far, so good.
Yeah. That person will then, what we'll do is just import a version, and we'll obviously talk to each other about tempo, keys and other things so that we can match all that up. But we'll import it into a new session and then work on it, and then do a very quick mix, and then send that back to the other person, and so on and so forth, until we think the track is finished.
Yeah. And because you're mixing the music, obviously if you're leading the track, then you have the session. If I'm leading the track, I'll just export all of my tracks as audio, which is a nice little function in Logic Pro, straight into the shared folder. So then you can just import them, and away you go. You can replace tracks with, sometimes, I've had a little glockenspiel in places which you've replaced with one of your, was it a Casio?
Yeah, Casio Tone 1000p, which is an awful piece of equipment, but awesome at the same time.
So we're keeping that same instrumentation, the same DNA running through it. So it means that if I give you the audio, you can make decisions on, would that work better as this instrument or something, that you can see what I'm going for texture wise, but perhaps there's something that would fit the overall sound of the album better.
Definitely. So we haven't done any of the mixing to see how that works, but the sharing of files and everything else seems to be working pretty well.
Seems to be working great, yeah. We actually mentioned the other day, didn't we, that actually if you were in a studio and you were collaborating with a person next door, you'd still have to have that set up. So actually we're 100 miles away from each other.
Yeah.
But in terms of how we're going about this, it doesn't matter how far.
And this nicely leads us on to the next bit, the communication issue. Because if you are next door to someone, you can just pop next door. if you're sharing a studio space and you've both got things set up, you can easily just nip round next door, say, right, what's going on with this? How are we doing this? Blah, blah, blah. Do all your planning, do all that kind of stuff. You can even do it, in the kitchen area on a morning or whatever and get on with it. We don't have that. So we have been doing a lot of Skyping.
Yes, we have. Yeah. Which, by and large, has worked very well.
Yeah. We've had a few issues.
Yes, and especially when we have added a third person in the form of guests. I've certainly had an issue here with these thick old walls where I did some testing this morning and the broadband speed drops very significantly between here and next door. And it means that when we've added a third person to Skype, there are connection issues, and I've dropped out, and we've coped and we've got through it, and the guests have been amazing and understanding, as you are. But it means that we actually considered switching, didn't it?
Yes, we thought
to Hangouts.
Well, you said, we could try the Google Hangouts.
It was in Trello, which we'll come on to at some point.
Yeah,
it has these power ups, so you can connect to your Google Drive, you can connect to a calendar, you can connect to all sorts of things, one of which is Google Hangouts. So I saw this through there. I thought, that would be very easy. We could just connect through Trello. Perfect.
Yeah.
Not perfect.
As we were both using Trello to do this anyway, and sharing the stuff on there for the podcast and the music, it would be perfect to be able to just click on the Hangouts thing. However, we had a few issues, didn't we?
Yes. I mean, it would be perfect if you did want to join a conference call of 3 Russian women.
Exactly. It was just 3 random, to us anyway, not to them. I'm assuming they knew each other, Russian women.
I'm presuming that they would have been as shocked as we were that suddenly there was some stranger joining their conference call. It was like they didn't even know I was there. And I don't know, that just seems weird to me.
Yeah, there's clearly some sort of issue with the Hangouts thing, whether that be the Trello or the Google bits, and there's some sort of crossing going on. Crossing of wires.
So we decided to steer clear of Google Hangouts from now on.
Yes. Well, we did do a very successful test with my brother.
We did, yeah.
And that was fantastic. And in fact, in both Skype and Google Hangouts, you can share your screen, which obviously when you're composing and other such bits and bobs, sometimes that could prove very, very useful. In Skype, it's a bit laggy and a bit... but in Hangouts, it appeared to be much better.
It did, but it might be connected to my Wi-Fi problem. So I've ordered a Wi-Fi extender. So by tomorrow, I'm hoping that problem will go away. And there's no reason not to use Skype going forward if that's the problem, because Skype has worked perfectly well so far, isn't it, really?
Yeah, so that's the communicating part A. Part B, I guess, is Trello.
Well, when you want to organise all of your stuff, there's Trello.
A while ago, before we even started this, I was looking at project management things, because I was using Google products like the Google Tasks and Keep and things like that, and it was all a bit fractious. I wanted a tool which was very visual, and I could see exactly what was going on. I could split up projects, so I could make it project-based. And Trello has just been, I know other people use it, so I've had it's been in the back of my mind, but it's just revolutionised the way I work, certainly. I can keep tabs on things, and it excels in collaboration.
Yeah, I'm a massive troglodyte, and I like writing things down on bits of paper.
I say, I don't mean that in a, you're a troglodyte, yeah.
Well,
I mean, we have our different ways of working. That's how you work.
Yeah, I've got lists right by me here now of stuff to do. So to-do lists and what the plan for the week is and other such bits and bobs. And I like putting check boxes so that I can cross them out if I've finished it. And if I haven't, or I've started it but I've not finished it, I can do half of it and all this. Really geeky, but all sort of hands-on, and I like doing that. And I've not really thought much about doing the digital version of that, which is all these online things. However, I found it very easy to get on with. It's been fantastic, the fact that we can be talking like this, and we can both have Trello open, and we could both be typing and adding stuff to it, adjusting stuff, when it comes to planning the questions for the guests and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's instant. It's there, it's done. I don't have to take any kind of notes if you're writing them down, because they will be up there.
Exactly. And it's really the kind of central point for us, isn't it, information-wise? You can organise yourself however you want, your end, and vice versa. I have my own calendar that I put things in, but this is kind of your point of information, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the master plan, isn't it? That's where everything is.
It's the master plan, yes, it is. Yeah. So the next thing, really, I don't see how we're working changing much, if at all, until we need to actually get together.
Yeah.
The points in which we should get together, I think we've kind of roughly agreed, are for mixing.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot quicker if you're in the same room. So if we can allot some time to do that, rather than me bouncing a load of mixes, then sending them off, then you going, oh, this is good, but could you just turn that oboe down and all that kind of jazz,
Is there something you're not telling me, Dan?
Yeah, everything's going to be replaced with oboe. But yeah, all that, it kind of cuts out a lot of that back and forward.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff, which obviously takes the time when you're having to bounce different versions of stuff. So it's good to be in the same room when you can agree. I mean, obviously that doesn't necessarily mean that once you then move away from the room and you listen somewhere else, that you might not go, actually, do you know what, that guitar's just poking out a little bit. Can we do something about that? Because that can still happen.
I think fundamentally, if we sit in the same room to begin with, listen to everything, and then we can agree on what it needs, then you can actually just get on with it without me constantly coming back going, oh, turn that up a bit.
Yep.
The other time I think that would be nice to get together would be to approach the theme tune. I think it'd be quite... Dan is grinning. I know why.
That was almost write the theme tune.
Sing the theme tune.
Almost.
Oh.
But yes, we might need a new jingle for that one. Yeah. But no, I think you're right. Getting together to write the theme tune.
As much as we've figured out a way to do it 100 miles apart, I think it would be nice.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely something about being in the same room because it's instantaneous, isn't it? The whole sort of, try this and try that and stuff. And writing that way is fantastic. But also, even though we're 100 miles away from each other and doing it differently, that it's still exciting when you receive something from somebody else. Put it on and go, wow. Or put it on and go, however it goes. But you put it on and just get a buzz from it, which is great.
Yeah. I suppose the only other thing that we are using to communicate is WhatsApp, isn't it? But that's more I'm ready when you are kind of messaging.
Texting. Yeah, I've put this file up.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some strange Russian women appearing in the hangout again.
Yeah, or my connection's gone, back in a minute.
Yeah, I'm just going to reboot the router.
So those are some of the things that we have been using and the way we've been working together. If you have different ways of working and you've experienced really good ways of collaborating with people you're not in the same room with, let us know. It'd be really nice to hear your stories as well.
Absolutely. Is it time for notes?
It is. Dan, get the typewriter. So I would like to share a very funny moment that happened on Twitter the other day. Juxtagon, at Juxtagon, tweeted, I think making a soundtrack have cornered the podcast interview market for folks who've lived in Greenock so far. Which is only when I realised, wow, Rob McCallum and Andrea Gibb are from the same place.
Yeah.
So I said, I know, and would you believe a complete coincidence? And Juxtagon said, if you keep it up, you'll find someone I know. So it turns out Juxtagon is from the next door place called Gurok. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But still very weird.
Very strange. But there you go.
Very strange.
The world is a small place.
It is. It is. And it just proves that creativity is alive and well in Greenock. I did say that people from other places will be on very soon.
They will.
Promise.
They will. And
that is the case. We do have some amazing guests lined up, actually.
And they are from diverse places, not just...
As far as we know.
As far as
who
we know.
knows? There may be this weird connection. Maybe we should. Juxtagon actually suggested that we open each interview with, do you have any connection with Greenock? So maybe. Okay, so thanks, Juxtagon, and thank you for your support. It really means a lot.
It does. Thank you very much.
That's a wrap.
How do you find us? Makingasoundtrack.com will tell you all you need to know. Links to the podcast, links to social media, there's information about us and more.
Please give us a rating and review on your podcast app if you like what you hear. A kind word goes a long way. And if you're enjoying the podcast and would like to come and say hello on the 12th of October, there are details about that at makingasoundtrack.com as well. Thanks for listening as always. Bye-bye.
See ya. I'm sorry. Oh, I just can't get over the heavy air bit now.
Oh, heavy air.
Dear. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Come on.
Do you suffer from heavy air?
We're professionals.
So for the next... So for the...